Let's unbox the Hot Wheels Starships Select Snowspeeder. Villa Varykino. If it's Star Wars, we collect it. Hello there, and thanks for visiting Villa Varykino. The most recent wave of Star Wars Starships from the Hot Wheels Starships Select line recently hit store shelves here in New Zealand, and of course I had to grab them all. I've been working my way through the newest wave, unboxing them here on the channel, and I am up to the iconic Snowspeeder. As you can see, this is number 11 as marked on the top hanger, and if you know the numbering of the system, we're about up to the mid-20s. This is an older one that has been reissued in the line, which is a fun way for Mattel to let collectors get a second chance at iconic starships from early waves that they perhaps missed out on, or for us here in New Zealand, I'm not even sure we ever saw it on store shelves. We certainly didn't, because we were looking pretty hard. So thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Coming up really soon, I'll take this one out of the packaging and take a closer look at the details. I also have a couple of other small-scale Snowspeeder vehicles to compare it with from other manufacturers, and we'll check out all of the cool details and compare those all together. But first, I'm going to take one closer look at the packaging before we open it up. We have a pretty iconic, pretty standard Hot Wheels packaging for the Starships Select line. They haven't really mixed it up. These still look the same from the very first line, which is kind of fun if you'd like to keep them in your packaging. It looks very nice and uniform on your display shelf. On the top, we have some neat black and white line art of the Snowspeeder as viewed from the top. And then we have a faction or sort of alignment symbol here. We of course have the iconic Rebel bird symbol there in red. Up here on the hanger, we have the number 11 Snowspeeder. They don't change up the numbers if it has been reissued, so it's sort of jumping back in time there a little bit. We have the Mattel logo there, the Hot Wheels Starship Select logo there in the lower corner with the ship name, Snowspeeder. I really do like those bright windows there at the front, very nice for display. On the back, we have an image of the Snowspeeder on the display stand, which is included in the bottom of the box. We can see we can rotate it for display, which is always a great feature. And we can see some of the other starships from this particular wave. We have Obi-Wan Kenobi's Jedi Interceptor in an interesting new prototype variation. We have the iconic Sandcrawler, the Mandalorian Gauntlet, and we also have a second reissue here, the Mandalorian's N1 Starfighter. So again, great for fans if you missed out on the initial release there. So fun to see some of those vehicles. I'll have the ones linked below that I have already opened, including that fascinating prototype version. It's really, really quite fun. So there we go. That is the packaging. Let's get this ship out and take a closer look and compare it to some others. Now I have the Snowspeeder and the box containing the stand all out of the packaging. Very, very exciting. First, before I get into that, I'm going to take a closer look at the black cardboard insert that was behind the ship. We can see we have a black and white blueprint style artwork of the ships from this particular assortment. We've got the Sandcrawler, the Jedi Interceptor, the N1, the Mandalorian Gauntlet. It's really quite fun. You can always cut this out and keep it if you are going to be throwing out the rest of your packaging. I always think this is a fun little keepsake there. So I'll pop that to the side and we can take a closer look at the Snowspeeder. It's always exciting when you get them out of the box. And I have to say, this one's got some heft to it. This is of course made predominantly from metal, but it was always a little bit interesting seeing how much of the weight of the box was the packaging and how much of it is the Snowspeeder. And this one has got some thickness to it. It feels quite heavy, which is quite fun. Of course, you can probably tell we have some plastic components on this as well, mainly sort of the laser cannons here, and we have the harpoon gun on the back. I think those are the main ones, and I think we've got a little bit of plastic here in the back as well. But yeah, we'll go over all of the details here. So, an iconic Rebel Snowspeeder. We've got lots of elements of painted details. We've got some line details in the sculpting here. I love the accent color. It's kind of a dark orange, very Rebel. I really like that. And now that I can see it out of the light, I can get a better appreciation for the very soft weathering that is going on here. You might be able to see it in certain places. We've got a little bit of a darker tone here, then it's lighter. We can see the weathering sort of coming in on this part here where it is darker, fading towards here, because this is all one piece. We can sort of see some of the construction. From here, we can tell that that line is unbroken. So we've got this top piece that is all continuous, but there is a soft gradient going on here, which is really fun. And we can kind of see it here on the top of the cockpit. We've got a very soft weathering going on here, really nice. And along this edge here, we can see it darker here and here, paler through there. It's really beautifully done. I really like that. Honestly, sometimes when you look in the packaging, you don't really get a sense of all of the painting details, and the shadows in the box were hiding that beautiful weathering. Very nice. Of course, seeing things close up can come with its sort of minor drawbacks. This one unfortunately does have a little bit of a scratch in the paintwork there. But as we can imagine, a lot of the Rebellion ships do have battle damage. You know, they're not pristine, so we can perhaps take that as a little bit of battle damage. You always do cross your fingers that the items you add to your collection are as in a pristine condition as humanly possible, but the nature of mass-produced items mean that you will get some small flaws from time to time. So it's a little bit of a shame, but it's not too bad and too much of a bigger error that it's really drawing my attention. I didn't notice it when it's in the box, so there's just that. But otherwise, the paintwork for the accent colors looks really nice. We've got a little bit of sort of that intentional weathering all around the edges of those accent stripes, like it has been well worn. I like that here. And we've got some painted details down here back by the engines. That dark orange color coming through there again. And we've also got a lot of dark gray accents as well. So this engine part, this is metal. This is quite thick. This is definitely adding to the weight towards the back of it. And then if we turn it to the side, we've even got the tiny little details by the cockpit windows. Very, very nicely done. I'm still just getting over the really soft airbrushing. That's really nice. And then we've got the painted details here, and we've got a little bit on the underside. And I think you can see that, those three stripes. That's not a shadow from my lights. That's actually on the ship. That's really nice. We can see that sort of feathered there on the other side. That's really quite impressive. I love that. And we can see we've got a little bit of darker gray details here and here. We can see the attachment points fusing all of the metal components together there with rivets. And then we have the attachment point here where we're going to put it on the stand, and just the sort of Hot Wheels logo, Lucasfilm Limited, of course, because this is a licensed collectible. Very nice. I love how just sort of solid this feels. There is a little bit of flex to the plastic here, so I'm not going to be, you know, too rough or perhaps knocking this into something. That would be an absolute shame to break those in any way. But I do understand the complexity of construction for some Star Wars starships necessitates a different material, and also because this is sold in the toy department, there would be perhaps a safety issue if these were metal. You could have a kid injure themselves by spiking some metal. But yeah, overall, very nice. Very clean black details for the windows. Of course, this is metal. These are not translucent windows. They are just simply painted black, but it gives the same sort of good effect. There's no minifigures in this line, so there's no reason to sort of see inside the cockpit. Overall, this is really nice. I like the feel of it. There's some fantastic detail. The paint is all really tidy. Just that one little scratch, but it's not really bothering me. I've certainly seen worse, unfortunately. Yeah, this is really quite cool. So I think the only thing that moves on this is the little harpoon gun on the back. It turns to about there, and then it's going to hit on those parts. So you can just get a little bit of posability there. Overall, this looks really cool. So you can probably tell this one doesn't come with any landing gear, but it does come with a stand. So if I put it down on the desk, it does tend to want to sit forward. Like that. I can sort of straighten it out like that, but it's just going to tip forward. It's not the worst if perhaps you wanted to display it in kind of a landed position, but let's get the stand out and take a closer look. So on the underside of the box, there is a separate box here, which you can see includes the two components for the stand. So let's get this out and assembled. So we've got two pieces here. We have the black stand that has the attachment point. This one's just a little bit dusty from being in the cardboard box. And here, wrapped up in tissue paper, we have the base plate. And of course, the tissue paper is to protect the printing here. We have a lovely metallic rebel bird symbol there and the name of this particular starship, Snowspeeder. On the front of it, we can see that we have the Star Wars logo stamped in and the Hot Wheels logo stamped on the other side. Very nice there. And we've got the attachment points there, so let's go ahead and get this assembled. It clicks in very nicely and they're very, very sturdy. I like the fact that if you pick these up, the bottom's not going to come off, because when you mount metal things that are quite heavy, we don't want them tipping over or perhaps coming undone. So I'm just going to very carefully press this onto this. It doesn't sort of click or making a snap sound. It just kind of goes on very slowly. So I kind of just, with a little bit of pressure, push that down. And there we go. That just looks fantastic. I love the curve of these stands. It gives a forward momentum to the display. And because it has a ball joint, we can adjust it as much as we want. So perhaps if you want a few ships angling like they're in flight, or if you like the very clean, very straightforward, you can choose that. Perhaps if you have a crowded display, you can angle them a little bit to fit in beside each other. Sometimes I have to do that with some of my collectibles. They're all a little bit close. But yeah, personally, I think I like it when I tip them down a little bit. So when I'm walking by, particularly with some of the vehicles like this one, they're a little bit flatter, so I can see the top details. Sometimes ships front on don't have quite as much sort of detail to show off. So I like this one tipped down. And because of the counterweight here, this metal display piece is really balanced very well on the plastic stand. I was a little bit worried with some of the very heavy pieces that this plastic stand would not be quite enough. I'd be a little bit worried about them tipping forward, but it feels very, very sturdy. I love that. I really do like the display stands for this line, particularly with the price point. It feels like great value having an included stand that's got this lovely Star Wars logo and design on it. It really does elevate it, both physically and just in terms of a display piece. I think this looks really, really quite cool. I love the painted details, all of the small sculpted lines. I'm just so much having fun. So with this line, it was in, you know, I've seen Hot Wheels for a long time. They've done different Star Wars lines over the year, but this has got to be my favorite line that Hot Wheels has done for Star Wars. There's just something about it that's just really in the realm of collector pieces. I hope that they're going to have so much more in store for us over the years. This is great. I think this is awesome. It's always exciting to add another item to your collection that's really going to, you know, be a worthwhile addition, you know, very cool. Okay, so I've got a couple of other Snowspeeder scale vehicles to compare it with. So I'm just going to change camera angles so that we can take a closer look at the detail of 3 of these ships all lined up. So here we can see I have 3 small-scale Snowspeeder vehicles in a row. This one is the one I have just unboxed. This is the Hot Wheels Starships Select that is made out of metal. This one here is the plastic version from Jazzwares Micro Galaxy Squadron line that came out a little bit more recently. And this one over here is the vintage Kenner die-cast vehicle from the 1980s. This one is actually my husband's original childhood toy. So this one is a little bit precious and a little bit worn from childhood play. And as we can see, we've got a really different range of kind of sizes and details here. So I'll take a quick look at these two, because these are modern ones that collectors will be able to source perhaps a little bit easier. As we can see, we have a fair bit of size difference, and this one feels a lot heavier to this one. And I know it's going to come down to a lot of collector preference, which line, what details are more important to you. And one thing that I noticed when I've got them all lined up, particularly if I hold them down here, these two have a window on the top of the cockpit. This one has a sculpted square, but it is not painted. I think if it was trying to, you know, line up with the others, this square should be painted black to give the appearance of a window. So that's a little bit of an interesting note that I didn't necessarily see just by itself. So that is something that you do notice when you compare it directly. This one from the Micro Galaxy Squadron line definitely has a dirtier, weathered finish. You can see the weathering here on the top and on the wings. And because this is plastic, we've got a little bit more sort of moving pieces here. The cockpit of this one opens up. We've got those flaps at the back. The harpoon gun does move. We've got a little bit of an actual firing mechanism for a harpoon there in the back. And this one has landing gear as well. Obviously this one does not have a firing harpoon gun of any sort, and it doesn't have landing gear. So let's compare it to the vintage one. This one I think feels actually heavier than this one, even though you can see they are different in size. This one also has a little plastic harpoon gun there at the back, but it doesn't have anything that fires. And this one does have a landing gear as well, which, yeah, this one obviously does not. We can see just a little bit of the weathering there. But yes, obviously if you're going to play with these ones, they're going to end up looking about as weathered as that one. And this one also has plastic components here on at the top as well. But I think it's always really fun to compare across different product lines over the years. Gives you a sense of sort of, sometimes we see great improvements over the years, particularly when you go and put vintage Kenner action figures next to a modern vintage collection. And sometimes the vintage ones do really show just how accurate and detailed they did make toys back in the 70s and 80s. So it's really quite fun seeing these together. And of course, you can really tell these are both made out of metal. This one has the painted cockpit windows with nothing on the inside. This one, despite being metal, actually has clear windows, and you can just make out the little sort of orange sculpted, almost pegs, the little characters inside through the windows. You can't open the cockpit. They're not designed to be removable, but that does give a little bit more detail there. And of course, with the Micro Galaxy Squadron line, the cockpit is openable and there is a small figure inside. If I can just snap that up, you can see the characters inside and they are fully removable. You can take them out, pose them. So that is a detail if you particularly like to have like cockpits open, or just having that sort of extra detail of the characters inside. That might make the Micro Galaxy Squadron line more of a choice for you. But yes, of course, across different product lines, there's going to be positives and minuses that different collectors will naturally gravitate towards. I'm a bit of a everything Star Wars collector, so if it's out there, I love to collect it. So of course this one has the nostalgia, the childhood factor. This one has the sort of added details like that little grapple line there, the little characters there. The weathering is obviously very different, and this one comes with a display stand, which these ones don't. So it is a little bit more of a display piece, and if you really like collecting a whole lot of Star Wars starships in a sort of very even scale, the Hot Wheels Starship line is perfect for that. The Micro Galaxy Squadron line, they are all in scale to each other, so the Falcon is very big, X-Wings are smaller, all of that sort of thing. So if you are a little bit tighter on display space, this one, the scale varies all over the place, and obviously this one can be a little bit harder to find in good condition in the modern market. So it tends to be, you know, a little bit harder to find, because as you can see, if I hold it up, you can see some of those high points are going to get scratched if it's ever been taken out of its packaging. But still, a lot of nostalgia there from the vintage Kenner line. So there we go. That is a comparison of 3 pretty similarly scaled Snowspeeder toys from across the years from different manufacturers. I think that was really fun to get them all together and compare them. So there we go. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today as I opened up another Star Wars collectible and just had fun. I hope you have a wonderful morning, afternoon, or evening wherever you are in the galaxy. And let's hang out again soon for more Star Wars fun. May the Force be with you. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a like. Check out our other videos and subscribe for alerts about new uploads. Thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.